All right, welcome to our first four-color Reclaimer Modern League. We're going for trophy number 6. Let's get started. You know, I'm pretty sure that there is a way in OBS that I don't know about that I can edit video.
Oh yeah, there probably has to be. I'd be shocked if there isn't. Oh, here's a random card. Wormcoil Engine.
That's
I'm just gonna
um
keep
that's an
I'm gonna keep
interesting
looking.
card. I think I'd be a lot more interested in Wormcoil Engine if I had like Karn somewhere in my deck.
Yeah, just like another way to pull it from the sideboard or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the different cards that would be good against these red decks, and maybe we like 6 mana is just not gonna cut it
All right.
on them, so we should not look at them.
It goes without saying that this hand is a mulligan because I don't have any green mana or white mana to speak of.
Yeah, yeah, toss that back.
This hand is a keep. I have Temple Garden on 1 for Reclaimer. I have Flagstones and possibly Utility Land.
We ditch an Omnoth here.
I am going to ditch the Omnath, even though it's likely that I'll be able to play it on curve if I draw an untapped land. I would much rather play a Dryad on that turn.
There's a
And
chance that we're supposed to ditch Bog.
that's true. I do want to make all my land drops in additions. And Bog,
Yeah,
although it's effectively a waste if it doesn't have text in the matchup, it's a card that I'm interested in enough that I think it provides better value than Omnath in this context.
sure.
So ditch that
It's like
one.
Omnoth, Bog, and Titan are the contention, and
Right.
I've
And
already decided that I like the Titan as the payoff. So
this hand's building to Primeval Titan right now
yeah.
above anything else. So let's see if we can make
Does our
something
opponent
work
have a
here.
commander?
They do not have a commander, no. So it means that they're not trying to win. Oh, this also means they're not trying to win.
I mean, we're guilty of that too, but not the
Hey, we don't
in
talk about
colors.
that. I mean, this is basically Splinter Twin.
Oh God.
Elvish Reclaimer is such a threatening mana dork.
Do we get
It really depends on what they are going for here.
Sure, yeah.
It's possible that we're gonna see a Renin
We're
6
gonna
here
have
terminate. Yeah, Renin
we're
6.
gonna have 5 mana next turn then to work with, if
Uh,
assuming that,
we're
or
gonna have
it's gonna be
4 mana.
4 mana. We crack the Flagstones, and then we'll have 3 lands in play. We play. Oh yeah, I guess the Bog's coming in untapped. So 4 mana. If we draw a land, then we can both play Dryad and activate.
If we hit an untapped land, we can have 5 mana to work with total, so we can go Dryad plus land.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see if we hit the untapped land here. Unlucky. Okay.
Okay.
So in this case, I kind of want to just play a bog and pass rather than do anything else. I can set up a
Uh,
Cavern of Souls with this if I need to, and I think that's
our
pretty much game
opponent.
winning.
Okay, so if we do Bog, then we can do Titan next turn, but our opponent is a deck that Bog might be good against because they're an Uro deck. Do we maybe want to play Radiant Fountain here?
Oh, I can buy back the bog if I need to. I still have
Oh
a
yeah,
Soul
yeah. We have
Sanctuary.
main deck. We have main deck. Okay, yeah, sure. Then go ahead and do the Bog.
So target you. I don't want to exile my flagstones. And we'll just pass turn. Because I value the Reclaimer activation more than I value the Dryad right now.
So do you think that we're playing against
It could be 5 color Niv. It could be a
you
variety
didn't
of
say a
things.
Jangatha, but maybe that's not like necessarily okay. So what are we getting as our land since we're breaking flagstones? Are we gonna get the like Cavern of Souls here?
Yeah, I plan on getting Cavern here because I'm still in the dark about what they're playing. So I can grab. I want to
I think
grab
that
a
second green source is more important,
Cavern of Souls is the second green source that we need.
but
So
it's not gonna. It's naming giant.
yeah,
Sure. Do what you want. I just don't see second red being important.
Oh, I don't either, but I want a bunch of lands with different names.
Oh, different names. Yeah, good call. Good call. That's true.
Grab a cavern on giants. And my thing is dead.
How many pools do we play?
Breeding pool?
Yeah.
We play 2 in the main.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay.
Sick.
And
Game
our
started over.
perfect mana if we were playing Golos. Here is a giant. Growth spiral. That is just fine. And here, I just want to grab 2 fields. I'm not
Yeah, I
going
was
to mess
gonna
around.
say.
I could grab a Valakut if I was trying to set up the Dryad line, but it looks to me like they are heavy on removal, or at least have enough removal that I'm not guaranteed if that this
Yeah.
Titan lives. So we're going to go for this,
Yep.
and we're just going to pass the turn, and we're going to threaten to kill the Ren next turn, or if they tap out for something like a Jace the Mind Sculptor, we plan to kill them next turn.
If we had like a Dryad and another Titan, I think I could foresee us getting like Field and a Castle Garenbrig so that we could, because then we would have been able to go
Oh, sure.
Titan into.
Yeah, I
So
can
like
see
if
that.
we draw a Titan here, we're maybe short on the mana if he kills this one, but
I could definitely see that. Now, he bought back Blood Chief's Thirst with this Mystic Sanctuary. We know he has it in
Yeah.
hand. So the question is,
is a sorcery.
it's a sorcery, okay.
It hits twos. It hits twos, and then it hits any creature or planeswalker when it's kicked, I think.
I believe that's true. So
Oh, that's a really good draw. If we, is there anything that we can do with that? Like,
so here's what I'm thinking right now. I kind of want to cast a Dryad here and be able to have green and white mana off of this through my fields and radiant fountains. And then we just cast the second Dryad, and then we attack.
So we go to combat first then, right?
Not necessarily, because if any of these Dryads live...
I'm just operating under the assumption that they are going to try using a counterspell, but...
If they do, they do. No harm, no foul. I think they have Assassin's Trophy in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see. Attack for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Let's say that they kill the Dryad here.
We should just play a second Dryad, maybe. Because that forces it. I mean...
Nope, we didn't have to. We just waited long enough and they can
Our opponent just does not have removal, I guess. Okay, so we're playing against a like grindy mid-range deck. We want Revoker.
Revoker is good if it names exactly Renin 6. The problem I have,
bad if it doesn't, it just dies.
And I actually don't like Hexdrinker in this matchup for the same reason, that they are a Renin 6 deck, and I don't want this to just get eaten. I am a lot more interested in cards like Celestial Purge over Path to Exile, though.
Yeah, go drag that in.
Aside from that, I think Teague is probably fine. Do you see anything else that I'm not seeing right now?
If we're gonna cut removal, like cutting all removal seems maybe like a risk. Maybe we want to like just upgrade one of these paths to a Winds of Abandon, or keep a path. Like, I'm sketched out by taking all, because Purge is not going to answer. Like, I can see a tracker coming out of them and being a problem.
Right, I could see that too. It's possible we should have like 2 paths still in.
Is Gargaroth good in this matchup?
I
mean, it just draws cards.
It's not amazing. It doesn't trade well with Uro, so I'm inclined to
maybe want
take it out.
Take that out.
And we could probably take out the Radiant Fountain as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So do like this.
That seems good to me then.
I also want to be able to deal with an Uro if need be. So Skyclave and Path can do that pretty nicely. Okay, this looks fine to me. We might be having too much on Celestial Purge, but they could reasonably be an Ashiok deck. We just don't have this information yet.
I'm assuming that there's going to be Ashiok in a deck like this.
Hand looks great. So
Awesome.
I'm gonna keep it.
Yeah. Do we want to lead on Breeding Pool so that we can save the Heath for more knowledge?
No,
Or
I'm going to lead on Heath, and when I lead on Heath, so this is a kind of an interesting sequence. If I fetch, play a Reclaimer here, and they don't have a Bolt immediately, and I play the Flagstones, and then they draw the Bolt, I can actually save the Reclaimer by sacking the land that isn't Flagstones to get a Flagstones, and that's my third land in the yard.
sure. Yeah, go for it. I'm I agree that it accelerates. It's just accelerates it by 1 turn then. Temple Garden?
I could probably get a basic here. Like just basic
If you're gonna get a
forest.
basic, then you get the snow. Well, we're sacrificing the flagstones. Maybe you get like a normal forest then.
Yeah, sure. Now
Okay.
the sequence is good depending that they don't draw, yeah, so they don't have the removal spell this turn.
Ah,
They could still have the sorcery speed removal spell.
it does seem like so. This is gonna probably be fatal push.
Yep.
Tap land.
That's fine.
Um, do we Teague here, or do we just hold a purge? Because Ashiok might hit the table next turn.
I kind of like just playing Teague here.
Okay.
If they play an Ashiok the following turn, I'm okay to just, purge it down, but I just want to be the one asking questions in this matchup, not the one giving answers.
Sure.
And we don't know for sure that they are a Ashiok deck. We kind of just boarded this in as a precaution. At worst case scenario, it hits Wrenn in 6. So, things
Sure.
could be worse.
I guess my only thought was, and wow,
Okay.
our opponent does have a very slow draw. Oh, this is interesting. Do we maybe want to go flagstones, reclaim? It's up to you. But if we do flagstones here, can't we go get one of those? We can fix our mana here and make it so that if we draw an Omnath, we can cast it next turn.
That's true. So I want to do before anything. I want to attack here. If he has a Snapcaster Mage, I would love to trade this Teague for a Snapcaster Mage personally.
Sure. Let's do it.
I plan on casting Ramunap Excavator this turn.
Yeah.
Just to put more pressure on board. And if he does have a card that exiles my graveyard after the fact, I suppose it's slightly better to just fix my mana here. So let's just play the Flagstones.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to go get the
Triome here. Rogwood Triome. And we'll play Ramunap Excavator.
And then we've got sort of an engine.
If they have a mana leak, they have a mana leak. This is not the most imposing card right now. Yeah, Growth Spiral is fine.
They're probably a field deck. Or not field deck, sorry. The spell that they're probably playing the 5-drop spell. Yeah, they're probably an Hour Promise deck.
It's likely.
Well, the Sanctuary decks have an incentive to play it. So that might be what they do this turn.
Mic off. Mic on.
If they do play an Hour Promise this turn, it'll be kind of inconvenient. Yeah, okay, good. So now I'm comfortable with just playing the Heath here, attacking for 4, and then just passing turn. I don't actually want to do anything while they have open mana, nor do I need to. This Field of Ruin is almost completely blanked by the Ramunap Excavator.
Yeah.
I really doubt that they actually want to use a removal spell on it, so we're in a pretty good spot right now, even if it looks like we might be behind in card advantage. Mystic Sanctuary.
We also have like Cryptic turned off, so like this Sanctuary.
So they pick up Fatal Push here. They have 1 black source that also produces green. So
what can we call for here that would be good?
You
want to pull up the deck list?
Sure. So
if we get a Shalai, then we can straight up counter that Fatal Push.
We can get an Uro. Uro would be pretty strong.
Uro would be good.
I kind of think Uro is probably our best option here. I don't want to get like another Primeval Titan or anything. I want to get something
Mhm.
that they
Like Omnoth?
I think they're going to let this call resolve and just kind of try to counter what comes back down. And
But
Uro is probably the best card that does that.
we have Cryptic Command turned off for this turn.
That's true. I'm worried about mana leak is the issue. That if I play my 4 mana
Okay.
card into a mana leak, getting Excavator mana leak is not as big a deal. Getting my Shalai
Yeah,
mana leak kind of just dismantles my board.
sure. I guess it was just to me it was a natural counterplay. I guess they have the field. Oh,
Sure.
really?
So they
Then
force
we don't have to
that.
worry at all. We're gonna get the
I'm just
other
gonna
Triumph.
get. Yeah, that's fine. It was between that and Breeding Pool, and I don't really want to draw a Triumph, at least not anytime soon.
We already have a breeding pool in hand, so this is new
Right.
name. Just play another Heath from the grave.
Yep. We're just gonna keep going.
Chugging along.
This Ramanap Excavator has effectively drawn us 2 cards this game. So
I am
they
shocked.
do have the removal spell now.
They're trying to. So they tap that for green when they're trying to tap for black. It looks like.
That would be my guess. Come on.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, they kill the Teague. Okay, that's fine.
Now they're gonna play. I think they're gonna crack that and play Hour of Promise, maybe.
If they do, we have a shot of just turning the corner in a massive way.
It looks like that's what they're about to do because they fetched up green. Yep, called it. There we go.
Yep. Okay.
There's absolutely no consideration in like not fetching in a turn, right?
No, I think I have to here. I'm just going to get a Breeding Pool. Tapped.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to...
Basic planes and then cast it.
So
The
if I don't want to
flagstone.
pay a life here, I can Flagstones, and I think I'm going
Okay,
to.
sure.
Basic Plains seems just fine to me in this spot.
Mm-hmm.
They have 1 card in hand. I don't really know what it could be.
Wait, hold on. If we get, it's up to you, but if they're all planes, it doesn't matter. Never mind. I'm just trying to think like the best way to make our future fetches and things, and the best way to do it is basic planes. Go ahead and get basic planes. They have 1 card in hand.
Yep, and I'm going to
I mean,
gamble that it's not a counterspell for this card anyway.
yeah,
We do have to be wary about cryptic commands at this point in the game,
they
but
have a Field of Ruin, so I guess we're just getting double field, right?
yeah. We could get double field, or we could get
Field
bog
Bog.
plus field, and that would play around if they had a fetch land to put something on top of their deck. But I think I'm just going to make the most obvious play here. I'm not.
Yeah, it's between Bog and second field, and I don't know. I am actually really considering that Bog might have been the play, but
It's possible. I do want to
2 fields
block.
against 2 fields, though, like we might just be priced into accelerating forward. This is activating Field of Ruin? No, this is casting a spell.
Ether Gust. I'm going to put that card on the top of my deck, but it's not
And
going to
then they're going to
matter.
Field of Ruin shuffle it.
Yep. That seems like what's going to happen.
Okay. Huh. Forest. Hmm.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, let's just field the dead from the graveyard
yep.
and pass turn. We're just gonna sit here and do nothing for a while,
Yeah.
but that's fine. I think our top decks are slightly better than theirs, unless
Next turn we have.
they amass enough zombies and just cryptic command us.
Next turn we could Selesnya Sanctuary, bounce one of these cycling lands, one of the triomes, and then cycle it to try and draw something.
We could.
Do you think that's better than making 4 zombies to do 2 zombies and do that?
Um, I think it's in my best interest to play a fetch land,
Ooh, okay.
but
Um,
might as well just
so
start with a reclaimer here.
sure. Uh,
I don't think there's a reason not to play this card.
we just need to go wide. Yeah.
And
No, I was just make sure you play Heath.
if I play Heath, actually,
We have plenty of.
I want to play the foothills here in case I want to grow this to a 3/4.
Sure. Good point. Missed that myself. So they have 10. We have 9, 10, 11 attackers.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
So that's fine. We can let that one go. Yeah, planes here, make 2 more zombies. It's worth noting that this Ramunap Excavator did a lot of good work this game. It blanked one of their Field of Ruin activations as well as generated some power.
Okay, path that. Path our own creature that makes enough zombies where we kill them next turn.
Yeah, I agree. Good game.
Yep, there we go. Easy.
All right, that was
We
match
also
1.
could have end of turn purged, or even untapped purged.
All right.
Okay,
that was good. The early pressure.
That was a game where Mind Sensor could have been good. So I'm
Sure.
I said this off camera, so I'll just say it on here. I'm calculating targets in the sideboard that could have been good based on matchup. Targets for our green tutor spell. Let me trash, Dryad trash, Ballista trash, Queller probably just trash. Archon, the lands come in tapped.
I don't think that's such a big deal. At least not in this
that's
matchup.
not enough.
We don't have enough pressure to make that kind of disruption amazing. It would be the second part of that card that would have been okay, and even then it's just whatever. I'm going to keep this hand. I'm on the play. I have things to do with my mana and lands to play, so I have no problem with this.
We have a backup just in case the Reclaimer is bad.
Yep. I can also play around Lightning Bolt if I need to by playing these fetch lands, but given the context of this hand, I think I just want to play my basics out as they are and leave my fetch lands for color fixing.
So Forest Reclaimer pass, figure out what. No commander out of the opponent?
No commander.
Okay.
So let's see if they can answer my Mana Dork.
Okay, so first matchup, we're going to call that like Omnath pile.
Sure. Here,
Omnath/Uro pile.
I think I want to. They just show me basic island here, so it doesn't appear that they're going to be a very aggressive deck. I think I want to just play a Windswept Heath and pass.
So that we can, as fast as possible, turn this guy into a 3/4?
There's that.
Do we want to crack it now because they could have a path next turn? Like we just have no reason not to.
I guess that's slightly better. It's small, but
it looks like it might be blue-white control representing Spell Snare. So like, why not get the free value?
Right. I'm also going to get a breeding pool here. I know I'm going to be activating the Reclaimer for sure, so I'm not worried about whether or not I'm going to be.
Only concern with the breeding pool, and we can answer it, is that this could be Merfolk without an Aether Vial.
If it's Merfolk, it's Merfolk, man.
I'm just being cheeky about it, though. It also means that we're not representing Eldrami's Call, just in case we have like a ridiculously good target.
Well, the opponent has priority.
Okay, so actually, now I'm thinking about it, that was probably not Omnath pile because it didn't seem like they had white. It seemed like they were 4-color Uro pile with black. So
Black
I'm just writing these down. So RGB
U.
U, yeah.
If I
RGBU pile
if I had to guess,
and
it's just like a good stuff pile of some
2O.
kind. Okay, so this could reasonably be a storm deck. It could reasonably be like blue-white control. Opt isn't very heavily played right now. Okay, so it
This
looks
is
like
blue white control as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, it looks like blue-white. So this Reclaimer, if unanswered, will go a very, very long distance this game.
Jeskai?
Could be Jeskai.
Oh, I meant what?
No, I'm gonna get this one.
Yeah. I didn't even think about the fact that.
Okay, so they have 2 mana up. I am not inclined to actually do anything. So I'm just gonna play the Wooded Foothills here and pass.
Sure.
Because I can fetch a Ketria Triumph with it.
It's good if it is Jeskai.
Right.
Also, we have 2 instant speed answers to a bolt effect.
Well,
Yep.
it would be answered with the cost of those cards. So
Oh, you're right. You're right.
it's actually even better than you think. Okay, so I'm just going to do
What land do we
this.
get?
I'm going to grab.
Because we're gonna get a basic with this. So that means we're going up
Oh,
to.
I'm going to get Rogren Triumph with the first Flagstones.
That's true, but I meant like, what land are we gonna get with the Reclaimer ability? Do we get like a castle? Because we get a basic here.
Castle's a consideration.
It's between that and Cavern, right?
So I could get a Field of the Dead here. And I would have. I would be able to play. So I would have 4, 5. I'd be able to play a land and play around Mana Leak by playing the Dryad, and then just play an untapped land of some kind to. Yeah, I actually think I like that. It puts bodies on the board. Okay,
Sure.
so this is what I'm thinking, just in case I was
This is a
mumbling
fast.
or whatever.
This is a fast. We get to activate Field this turn if we do it now, so that sounds good too.
Yeah, so we're gonna get Field of the Dead. This is fine. We're gonna grab a base
Plains
forest.
or forest,
I have enough white mana right now, so it's gonna be
we have
forest.
whatever we get here we're gonna want to we want to get like the missing piece of Omnath if we get it end of turn, or are we just gonna keep this in play?
I'm gonna fetch it here. And
so we have green, blue, and white or red. So we need something with white or red, and we did get it, so that if we draw Omnath, we could do it this turn.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna play a land first. So I'll just play the Flagstones, and we'll just tap, 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 and we can play a Dryad around the Mana Leak here. And now I can also play a Plains here and not have to take damage, and I can double call if I need to. So we are sitting pretty for the time being, but this is blue-white control. This is a deck that's designed to unravel whatever good stuff you have going on. So it wouldn't surprise me in the least if what their hand was lined up very well with the contents of our land and board. But for the time being, we're just going to win the game, I guess.
Oh, sick. Sick. This is great. I don't know how bad their hand was, but okay. Hex Drinker.
Yep, this card's great.
I
also like Phyrexian Revoker in this matchup because it just shuts off Planeswalkers. Gaddock Teeg is very good.
Is Eidolon good enough? It's a slow attacker, but it does like...
Eidolon is probably worse than other cards that we probably have in our deck right now. There's consideration for Knight of Autumn. I do want the Celestial Purges. They are definitely an Ashiok deck.
Sure.
So I could board it like this.
Do it on all 3?
I think I do.
Is it maybe 2 and Apparition enough? But okay, we can put that over there. What's the Knight of Autumn for?
It's just a beater.
Attacker?
It's just a beater.
So we just want a 4/3.
So, cards I don't like. I'm going to board out all of the paths because they are not very good in the matchup.
Radiant Fountain.
Radiant Fountain isn't very good. Bog is fine. It's not amazing this matchup, but it's fine. Blast Zone is also just whatever. Yeah, we can probably get rid of a Shalai, and we can get rid of a Gargaroth. Gargaroth just doesn't do enough. This card, this card is really designed in this deck to be played against the attacking and blocking mechanics of Magic. And if you don't find yourself blocking with this card, there's a really good chance that the card probably isn't designed for the matchup, and other cards that you have, even if it's worse in stats, like a Knight of Autumn,
Mhm.
it's probably better because you can kind of fit it in with other cards.
The only thought I have here before we hit submit is that maybe Gargaroth or just having another. Maybe we want to put this Kozilek in here. That's a random thing, but it's just like we are shaving a lot of top end. And I just don't. I'm not entirely sure that Kozilek is like wrong to consider. It does get just removed by like a Path to Exile, but drawing four might be good enough. I'm just trying to check if we want like a big top end thing.
It's not impossible that Kozilek is better than Knight of Autumn, but from my experience, getting to a point in the game where you have 10 mana or whatever, ridiculous amount of mana this deck can generate,
Then you're
and
already
casting a
losing enough.
casting a Kozilek, it's not a bad play. It's definitely a play that can do stuff. But the cards you draw, if we are at any point where we're locked out of the game, aren't going to be enough to get out of a Cryptic Lock. And this card just
Sure.
falls under the same category. And Knight of Autumn, with the aggression it provides early, or it can provide early, is likely to be able to deal with Planeswalkers more efficiently and other things. This hand is probably a mulligan.
Slow. Too slow.
Yep. This hand
That looks great.
is pretty good. So I'm going to keep, and we're
We
going
bottoming
to...
Paul.
I think
Dryad might be
so.
slim too.
I think I'd rather keep the Dryad than the Call. It's really close, though.
The call gets Teague if we want,
I
which
actually
is like a really.
think I am actually going to ditch the Dryad here, and that's because the Call can also get a Hex Drinker if I need that kind of
Oh yeah,
effect. Now, Hex
true.
Drinker does get bounced by Planeswalkers, but being able to dodge a lot of their really important removal spells is key in this kind of matchup. So, second Elvish
Sick.
Reclaimer was actually a very good draw there.
Yeah, they're probably path.
If this one were to get pathed or removed somehow, just having another 1/2 in this kind of matchup is always welcome.
Mm-hmm. Um. So if they don't path this turn, for instance, which it looks like they're just passing, they're probably got like mana leaks, so we're strong. Oh, what is this?
Okay,
Gust.
I'm going to put this on the bottom because I really just want to draw lands at this point.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay,
Oh,
so
do we want to
I
explore and maybe use this cavern naming warrior? Is that like
I
too
can
aggressive?
cavern on giants. Actually, wouldn't work.
Well, I'm
Um,
just saying so that you can play Reclaimer on the same turn.
the question is, do I want to expose this cavern? And I think the upside is high enough that I actually do want to do that. So let's go ahead and play this untapped and cast Explore. Okay. And
We don't have to play it this turn.
I really want to get the Reclaimer down as the thing.
Then we have to name warrior.
We can name Elf.
Sure.
Because we have the call in hand, it's and in the situation where they have, Path plus Field of Ruin, I can call for the Excavator and get back the cavern if I need to. Also,
Okay.
because I untap here, if they decide to Field of Ruin any of my lands, I can now use the Reclaimer to bounce or sacrifice whatever land that they're going to be targeting.
Are we just like gonna sit pretty and hold up call here?
Yes,
Or are
we
we
are.
gonna explore?
We're gonna hold up call. We don't have a land to put into play guaranteed, and it's really helpful to think of Elvish Reclaimer's effect as effectively a spell. So we can kind of double spell with the mana that we have on board.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like they missed a land drop here. So
Sick.
I'm gonna call
Mm-hmm.
and see what they do. If they tap out of Field of Ruin, I can... Okay, great. I don't care if this one resolves or not. Now this gives me free reign to activate the Elvish Reclaimer. And I'm going to find flagstones.
Cool. I'm just gonna note right now that this would be a great matchup to be able to go and get Spell Queller, I think.
That's true.
I could be wrong, but it looks like having like the instant speed call into something in response to them casting like a Supreme Verdict would mean that it'd be really good.
Right. So I'm going to explore here because I want to use this mana before this one comes into play.
Yep, sounds good.
They also don't have Field of Ruin up, which is great for me.
Oh, sick.
So now I get
Dude.
to just play both of these. So play that one. I would love to search my deck. Thank you for asking. We're going to find a...
Maybe the Rogren,
we
because
need
then we can
blue
play.
mana, so yeah, Rogren's good. And then we can play the castle here, and we can just pass the turn. And it's worth noting, if we draw an untapped land next turn, they still can't quite Field of Ruin us. Seeing as they
Uh-huh.
are screwed on lands, they can't afford to have this card leave the table without getting a land.
Do you want to go get a bounce land so that we can bounce this cavern and play it naming giant?
Um, yes, actually, yeah. So let's tap tap. I would not have made this play if they still had Field of Ruin mana up, worth noting.
Yeah.
Okay, and the game has ended. All right,
Okay. Wow, that's so funny.
so
This
2040.
is this has been two concessions in a row, so I'm not going to get too obsessive here. But our opponents have seemed to not have the answers to our questions, as the analogy you've been using, which is a good position to be in. So that was blue white control. That was just standard blue
Yep,
white control. I would say both of these. I'm going to just note here the reason that we won each time, and I'm just going to write inevitability, or I'm going to write down field. I'm going to write down field because that's really the thing that I think our opponent just conceded, is that they think that we're going to go get field and that they are too behind on mana to actually deal with that kind of advantage.
that is fair to say. It's also worth noting that the last game that we played against Blue Control, they were kind of mana screwed. It's hard to
Yeah.
say who would have won that game for sure if the opponent had found lands on time, but I think that we were in a really fair position regardless. This hand is a mulligan.
Yeah.
This hand is a keep.
What are we bottoming?
I'm going to bottom...
Maybe the cavern? Maybe the Ketria?
I'm going to bottom the Ketria Triome because I want to fetch it with this. Also, having a tap land in hand is not ideal, and I don't want to bottom any of her spells. I don't know what the matchup is, and Gargaroth could be a huge, huge advantage for us. So
Yeah.
let's go ahead and bottom the Triome. I'm going to go ahead and shock into Temple Garden on 1 to play this Reclaimer,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see how it goes from there.
And we're playing against
Horizon Canopy.
humans. Looks like humans so far. It could
Difficult
also
to
just be any of
say.
those several Horizon Canopy Noble Hierarch decks, though.
Right. So at this point in the game, I think I want to... Huh. I think
This
I...
looks like Heath pass to me, but maybe crack Heath for a basic pass. Crack it for a Snow Forest pass,
Probably yes.
because they could have path. So I kind of want to crack it now. Based on
Okay.
what they play, ooh, planes is humans.
All right,
Okay.
humans. This is normally a pretty good matchup for us, but, you know, we always have the ability to lose. So,
Yeah, no reason to be cocky. Two champions. Um, Gargaroth's great here. So
Gargaroth is a very, very strong card in these matchups, but the way that we win the most consistently is by putting a Dryad into play alongside Valakut. They're unlikely to be able to answer that combination.
yeah, that's what we're targeting towards. If we
So here I want to just play a Breeding Pool and pass, and there's a strong
Mhm.
chance that I can actually get a Blast Zone with this
Oh,
Flagstones, because they do have 3
sure.
1-drops in play.
That's great. That's great. That would be the best play next turn. Is just pop a blast zone, followed by Gargarothing.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a good call.
So another 1-drop makes this
Oh my
play a lot more
god,
attractive.
it's it's
Blue
probably going to
green
be.
for a
Oh my
Phantasmal
god.
Image. Okay.
Oh my god. Oh my god, the best blast zone of all time.
We're about to
I'm
end
so
this
excited.
man's whole career.
Okay, so
I
we're
am gonna
gonna
block. I'm gonna
block
block
and
whatever the biggest
activate.
one is. Yeah.
Oh
So
wait, are you blocking the biggest one?
it doesn't matter. I just want
We're
to
about
soak
to
up
have
the
a
most
three
damage.
four. We're
I
about to have a 3/4.
I'm about to not have an Elvish Reclaimer
Why?
because I'm
If
gonna
you block and
blast
then
zone.
activate, there are 3 in the graveyard, and it's a 3/4.
Okay,
So
hold
you
on.
can survive the
Hold,
3/3 will stay alive.
hold on. If I get a blast zone here, like we were talking about, and I decide to
Sure.
blow it up, I'm not going to have this Elvish Reclaimer anymore, and I
I
can
totally
either have
get
the
that.
choice of having a life point or not having a life point.
Yep, you're right. Okay, ignore me. I was just so excited by the fact that we got offered a favorable trade.
So here we're going to grab a Triome. We do not want to draw tapped lands in this matchup when we already have double green. And with this one, we're going to grab a Blast Zone.
Oh my the opponent's probably experiencing the same humiliation I
And
am right
because
now.
they didn't play a land last turn, I'm actually going to blow it up here on my main phase. I'm not going to
Yes.
wait. We're going to play a tapped Sacred Foundry because we don't want to pay life, and we already have a unique name here. We don't want to play this one necessarily. Yep. Next turn, we're set up to play Gargaroth, and that should be enough to just close out the game.
This is a gross position for them. Are we gonna name Beast with Cavern? Or are we gonna Shock?
We're just going to name Giant because.
Oh yeah. We already have double green. Good catch.
Also, naming Giant allows us to be able to have this as an additional Uro mana if we ever do get to that point in the game.
Saves us the life off of this breeding pool.
Exactly.
That we don't have to shock then. Yeah.
So here's a Gargaroth, and Gargaroth should do a really nice job of cleaning up.
So good.
And that's the game. All right.
Best possible hand against them too, probably. Okay. So do we bring in purges against them? Do they play enough red creatures to merit purges? We're bringing the Wary of Abandon no matter what. So let's do the easy choices first, I guess. But
Celestial Purge, unless their 75 is changed or they're playing something else that's slightly off of the normal stock list, it hits General Kudrow and it hits Mantis Rider.
Mantis Rider, yeah.
I don't.
Is that enough for one? Or
I don't believe that putting Celestial Purge in my deck just to hit those 5 copies of those cards, because I believe it's only 5 right now, warrants the spot. I would much rather be putting Winds of Abandon in my deck. I like Night of Autumn because it can kill Ether Vials and gain life and block and whatever it needs to do. Phyrexian Revoker is a consideration, but I don't think playing a card like this on my second turn is what I would want to do if I were to draw an ideal hand. So I'm going to leave this one out for now.
Yeah. What's Revoker for? Just the General Kudrow?
It would be for Ether Vial, it would be for Kudrow, and it would be for whatever other cards they may play that have activated abilities. There aren't a lot of the human decks, so most of the time this would be a 2-mana 2/1 that has a minor tax effect. And if given the choice of playing a Revoker or activating a Reclaimer, I'd much rather activate the Reclaimer and get myself set up in that situation rather than trying to tax my opponent down a little bit. So
that sounds about right.
Cards I don't like. I don't like Bog at all. I think Cavern of Souls is really mediocre, and I can reasonably board out of a Ramunap Excavator. They're unlikely to touch my lands. Aside from that, we can sort by CMC here. Is there anything else that you see up here that I don't that would be good?
No. We can. I think that this is fine here. Ramunap Excavator to loop Blast Zone is a very attractive proposition, but I just don't know if that's good enough compared to what we like. Is that better than Shalai? Shalai's a 3/4, so that blocks Mantis Rider really well.
Shalai is a really interesting card in this matchup. I mean, just being a 3/4 flyer for 4 oftentimes is enough to stonewall, assuming they don't have a Noble Hierarch. Also, Shalai's text of giving my other creatures hexproof means that Reflector Mage is also less attractive. This hand is very good. I'm going to keep it.
I would. So yeah, we can keep that. It's going to be interesting if our opponent like debates us by we play a Shalai and then they play a Phantasmal Image, naming it, and we only have 1 removal spell. That could be like a random thing, but
I'm just going to make the obvious play here. We're not going to talk about it too much, but cracking a Heath to shock in would not be ideal. Looks like they're on a 1-lander anyway. So I'm just going to punish them as hard as I can. I'm going to ramp as much as possible, play this Dryad, and hopefully be able to gun down whatever creatures that they play.
Yeah, plus the fact that we just drew the Dryad really, really,
Yes.
yeah,
Them
we're not
not
going to
playing
pass
another land,
them.
yeah, them not playing another land disincentivizes me from playing this Path to Exile. I can take the
Yeah.
2 here without really much issue. The next turn, I'm going to be able to have this grow up to a 3/4 with the activation here, fetch, and another activation.
And we also have like the same, like our opponent has every reason in the world to be scared of us doing the same thing they did game one. So this is a really strange choice for them in terms of a keep, right? Um, what are we gonna?
Okay, so in this spot, I'm going to cast Dryad, and I'm going to
Because we have
play
2 mana.
Garenberg plus Heath here, and now
Do
I
we want to crack it
can
because of Dismember?
I can just tap this for mana if I need to, so
Oh,
not
true.
really. I don't actually plan on cracking it this turn anyway.
Yeah, that's an activation that you don't need
So
to throw
if
away.
I don't cast any spells for the rest of this game, it is also just unlikely my opponent can win. So this is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too worried about it. I am going to activate Reclaimer in response though here, because I want to be able to shoot down this card. So
Yes.
yes, and I'm going to find a Temple Garden. And we're going to find a Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. This is going to kill this. This is going to grow up to a 3/3, so I can block it and the game is ended.
Sick.
All right.
Awesome. So humans 2-0. Main reason we did Reclaimer was the absolute number one. It's that it was an unanswered Reclaimer.
Yep.
We already know that Valakut is the reason that Valakut and Blast Zone are our best cards against humans, but I'm just going to write the main reason that this went so well was Reclaimer.
Yep. That sounds
Cool.
perfectly reasonable to me. Let's play another league match. We are currently 3-0, 6-0 in the league.
There were no creatures from this list that would have looked more attractive than something that we already have in our deck for this matchup. So no tallies on this.
It's possible that some kind of Torpor Orb creature would have been nice against the humans deck, but ultimately I think the humans matchup is so good that we don't need extra help. The collateral damage that we have from a lot of our synergies is usually strong enough to bring down their strategy. At least.
Yeah, it's also maybe considerable, and this is a random thing we haven't explored at
Mic
all.
off.
I was thinking that if we had a the D-Sphere creature, we don't have that
Mic
on the
on.
list. That could have been a good creature in a lot of these instances.
That's true.
Like that first game, it would have been heinous.
That's true.
What's that guy called? Deputy?
Deputy of Detention, yes.
Now, I'm not going to say that Deputy Detention is like by default. I would assume that the new guy who just never lets them get the cards back is better than Deputy, because it's sort of proven through trial and error, and also just the way that the meta has evolved, that giving them an XX Spirit is just a lower cost than giving them back all of the things that you've exiled. But there maybe are some situations where Deputy cleans up like every zombie. So I'm still going to have it on the list here, and I'm going to give it a tally here, where this is a matchup where it would have been really good.
Looks like we've been recording for about 48 minutes now. So that's
this is not going to be that long of a video, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's good for us. This hand is actually not nearly as bad as it may look.
This looks actually really good to me, but that's because I love the double explore. We've never played this hand.
Yeah, that's true. This hand could just not be very good. The sequence that we would go for, we are on the draw, so that's worth considering. They don't have a commander. If we played a Field of the Dead on turn 1, then Forest into Explore, play this. These Explorers could really be anything, and we have a couple draw steps in order to draw a spell.
They're always going to put a land in, so they're rampant growth plus draw a card every time.
These cards right now set us up in a situation where we have a plan to get to 6 mana, and we just don't have the cards that we would need to actually, spend that mana on. The Blast Zone is likely to help.
Out there. I'm saying fuck it. I think that because we have Blast Zone specifically, that we have an answer to most of the decks that would punish us for trying this hand out.
This hand would be really bad against Death and Taxes. It would be
Sure.
really bad
Yeah.
against early combo. If we were going to play against something like Jund or any kind of mid-range deck, any Fatal Push deck in the format that isn't too aggressive, and because they don't have the
This would
Lurrus
be
here, it
insane.
doesn't look like it. I'm inclined to keep this hand because I think it has a solid game plan going for it, even if it doesn't look like it on the face.
I
So
agree that that spell-based combo is good against this hand. So we're gonna just see 3 Summer Blooms
okay,
put in. Oh, it's Jund.
could be anything. We don't know yet.
Yeah, burn, red white burn.
Okay, so
Swiftier.
this hand is slightly less good against Burn.
We have a blast zone, which is quite good, but
Blaststone's
yeah,
fine. Dryad was a great pickup there. We can play
yeah.
that. So we're gonna play the Field of the Dead first. Just get our tap lands out of the way. We aren't doing anything on turn 1 anyway.
So we're gonna go explore into this foothills, crack it tapped for something, so that we can go Dryad into explore, or do we
Um,
have a different plan of action? Oh, is Tri-Builder better because it can block and get a land?
it might not be if they have Searing Blaze in their hand. So let's think about this for just a second. If I play a Forest here and play an Explorer, I will take 2, I go down to 16, I play, let's say, a Wooded Foothills. That drops me to 15, 14, 13, 12, assuming they have cards in their hand. What is my best draws to win from there? We're going to be taking some damage regardless of the ramp spell we play here, but Explorer is a lot more likely to find us cards that are going to help us win the game. So I think even if we drew this, we're still a lot more likely to win if we play the Explorer here rather than the Tri-Builder.
Sure, sounds good then.
So this is fine. Worth noting, this is actually not that good of a matchup for us. We're much better suited against
Oh
the
yeah,
Prowess decks. So we drew the
calls
call. Um,
calls really quite good.
Call is very
Um,
strong. We can play a Dryad the following turn, as well as Call for a Shalai, which is very helpful in these kinds of matchups. We just have to hope that we live to that point in the game.
do we have to play foothills here? If we play any other land, like we're because we're playing Dryad, as long as we hold up a green, we as long as we have 2 untapped lands, we can still cast the second spell,
So
right?
if we don't play a Foothills here, and we play whatever other land, we'd be really gambling a lot with
Sure.
drawing a untapped land that doesn't deal us damage. If we draw a tap land, we're then forced into the position that if this Dryad doesn't live for whatever reason, and we still want to call, we're either gonna have to fetch this eventually, or tap it for mana with the Dryad. Uh, so if we play a Foothills here and just pass, the following turn we get to play Flagstones, Dryad, Land. We still have the Foothills untapped, and with the Foothills we can tap for a color instead of fetching, and the Blaststone can
Hmm.
tap for a color. I think it's better to not fetch here, because
We
this,
can still play it, but we don't
yeah,
have to fetch.
exactly. And later in the game, if we do feel like we need to fetch, we can, and it would be the same mathematically. So
Well, let's play it and pass then.
let's play Foothills and pass the turn.
Yeah, I guess this is also the maximal number of options, so it's just objectively the right play. Um, we get to choose whether or not we crack it or not based on this Dryad.
So Goblin
Goblin
Guide,
Guide.
it might
We're
realistically
probably
affect
big zoning next turn then, right? Oh,
Riftbolt.
oh.
Okay. So let's see what we reveal here. We revealed Raminap Excavator. So we're going to have to pay the 1 life regardless this game, almost certainly. I'm going to fetch here because I do not
Uh-huh.
want to draw it, and fetching here gives us another draw at something like a Shalai.
I also think that so it since maybe that seems good, right?
Yeah,
Because it's red.
we already have the white mana here, so
Mm-hmm.
let's grab this one.
We're likely blast zoning, right?
Okay,
Or do you think Uro's better?
Uro is actually better than Dryad here in a lot of ways. Let's do the math before we do anything else. So this is going to gain us 1 life because of the Eidolon of the Great Revel. So we're going to go to
Dryad
11.
allows us to double spell.
That's true. Uh,
Nothing else does. Uro has a chance of it, but like the only thing that guarantees us double spelling is Dryad.
so let's say that we play the Dryad here. Um, we are forced into a block effectively. We're going to go to 8. They bolt us. Uh, this is not a good situation, but I think we have to Dryad here.
Yeah.
This
Do you
is
think Blast Zone's better because it just gains 4 life? I mean, we're already past that pale at this point. But do you
not
think that maybe
really.
Blast Zone as a gain 4 is better?
I think playing and cracking Blast Zone is treading water, and they have more live draw steps at this point in the game for their strategy than we do. So
Are
we
we trying to get
just
a Gargaroth here?
we can get a Gargaroth. Ideally, I'd like for this Dryad to live, even if I don't think it's going to happen, and I find an Omnath because I can cast an Omnath off of Dryad mana. So they move 2 attacks
That's
here.
the best
If they
possible
have
world.
anything, we're going to die, but we're going to block the Eidolon.
So the land at least. I think we're supposed to block Swift Spear in some worlds, but okay, we take.
If we no,
We hold advantage here.
we're currently done on board. But if we had blocked Swift Spear and the Eidolon lived, then we wouldn't be able to cast Call and we die.
Let the skull crack resolve and then cast call. I'm just joking. Yeah, we're dead.
So
Okay,
good game.
sideboard. Are we bringing in chalices, and if so, how many?
I think Chalice is not good in this matchup. It
Just too many.
They-
That spread
yeah, there's-
historically.
their spread is
Knight?
too wide. I like Knight of Autumn.
Purge kills all their creatures.
So does Path in a way. I kind of
Do you-
like the mana efficiency of Path more than I like Purge. So I don't think there's anything I want from my sideboard for this matchup aside from the Knight of Autumn.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to board out the Bajuga Bog. It doesn't have enough text in the matchup, and just do it like this. Hex
Okay,
Drinker
sure.
dies too often in too many things.
Did we see if they have Lurrus or not?
No,
Not that
they
would
don't
be
have
a font
Lurrus.
hog.
No.
Okay, so they have a chance of bringing in like a Blood Moon effect, but it's unlikely.
Okay, this hand's a mulligan. It just doesn't do enough. We have 3 Dryads, which is effectively a Mold of 5 already, and not enough lands to do anything with them. This
This looked
hand
good, right?
is a keep. We get to play a Shalai on turn 3 via the Sakura Tribe Elder. So we're going to keep
We
this,
wanna
and we're going to put back
Bottom maybe.
I'm going to put back the breeding pool, because I can fetch them with the Heath if I need to.
Sure. We're gonna get a
So turn
Red-
1, we're going to play a Sacred
blue,
Foundry
green?
tapped, and turn 2,
Oh.
we're going to get a Windswept Heath into a forest. We're just going to try to take as little damage as possible.
Okay. I'm gonna be right back.
Just making the obvious plays here. It makes no sense for me to not block or not sack. They showed me they don't have Searing Blaze. It's likely that they just have an Eidolon here, and I'm getting the second green source in case I want to get a miscellaneous land with this Windswept Heath, depending on what I draw. Field of the Dead is not a bad draw here. We can play it whenever we are in a situation where we can cast a spell using all of our mana and just play this as an additional land. So here I think it is in our best interest to play the Heath, fetch, and ideally I'd like to find a blue source because I want to be able to cast Omnath this game, but we're unfortunately in a situation where I have to not take as much damage as possible because these creatures are going to run me down given enough time. So I'm going to find a plains here. It leaves us so that a blue source would put us in a position where we can cast Omnath from this call. And we can play the Ramunap Excavator next turn in order to find that card. So we aren't blocking any of their cards here. we're just going to sit tight and hope the Shalai blanks enough cards in their hand.
Okay, what are we looking at? 16. 4 cards in hand.
Path to
They're cast
Exile.
on path.
That is unfortunate, but it is a land, and with an untapped land next turn, we can cast Primeval Titan.
Do you want the forest more?
I already have a snow-covered forest here, and I already have
If
2
we get
green.
that, but then we can do. What are we going to do next turn? Do we want Eldrami's Call for removal creatures, and then we'll need 3 white?
It's possible. General rule of thumb: if I already have the 2 green mana, I don't need additional green, and that sentiment is emphasized by the fact that I would have to get a green mana with a non-unique name. Okay, so they have a Lava Spike here. Hopefully I draw into some kind of Dryad.
Untapped land.
Okay, that's not bad here.
That pays for itself, right? Because we're going to get the gain land.
So we can set up a situation here where we cast Primeval Titan to get a bounce land plus Radiant Fountain, and Call can later find Dryad for lethal, so I think that is our best sequence here. So we do this.
We're at 9. They have 2 cards in hand. We have a blocker for one of these.
So the choice is between Selesnya Sanctuary and Field of the Dead in this spot. Now, they showed us Path to Exile, and it's not at all impossible that they are going to have another path in hand, and I really don't want to take 4 from these. So I actually am going to go back on my previous statement, and I'm going to grab Field of the Dead, and I'm going to get Radiant Fountain. Yeah.
Sure.
Now, we can't bounce him back and gain 2 life next turn, but this insulates us against Path to Exile, and it can afford us blocks on these without actually having to put our Primeval Titan in jeopardy, which is very valuable. Okay, they sacrifice.
That's a good sign for us.
Okay, and the game is ended.
Heck yeah.
Let's go to game 3. In that game, we noticed that Shalai on turn 3 was extremely powerful. They felt like they needed to path it, and playing a card that the opponent needs to be able to deal with a Path to Exile type of removal spell allows us to get to Primeval Titan a turn faster, as you saw there.
Yeah, Shalai's the pivot between, because if you put Amenoth, Gargaroth, and the Titans in the top, then you've got Knight, Shalai, and I guess arguably Uro is our like pivot cards to the payoffs. So this is nice, yeah. I am actually, I could be wrong. I am thinking that we could want Eidolon of Rhetoric depending on what they're doing, because if they ever suspend a spell and we cast that, they're off for the entire turn. It deals 3 damage. But is it any is that better than Excavator is the question I'm asking, because it's got a bigger toughness. We're probably only blocking.
There's a chance it's better than Excavator. I'm not sure that Eidolon of Rhetoric would be better than a Phyrexian Revoker or a Hex Drinker. If I am just trying to block, if I were to put an Eidolon of Rhetoric in my deck, I would not be able to cast it until turn 3. This deck has no way of casting a 3-drop on turn 2 or earlier.
Yeah.
And the upside of Hex Drinker or Phyrexian Revoker is if they decide that they want to attack into it, it's either going to eat the damage from a Swift Spear and we're going to take the bolt anyway, or it's going to just trade with one of their creatures.
Goblin Guide, or trade with a spell from hand, which is just the same.
And if I play a Hex Drinker and it trades with Lightning Bolt, I think that's a favorable exchange. So I think I can be sold that Hex Drinker is better than Ramunap Excavator.
Okay, cool.
We probably sideboarded slightly incorrectly, given that we just made that change, but this is why you play Magic Online, is to learn things about your own deck sometimes. This hand is unkeepable.
Interesting looking hand. Go ahead and mulligan it.
On the draw with double Valakut and Dryad might seem appealing, but we have no actual green mana to work with aside from this cavern, and gaining 2 life is not going to be as much help as we want it to be. So
It
mulligan.
just doesn't do anything until it.
Okay.
Huh.
This hand's interesting. I think I'm
Like
going to keep it.
bottom a Titan, play the Triumph, shock in the breeding pool, or are we doing it in the opposite order? What are
Uh,
we doing?
I'm going to keep. And I'm going to
We're
put up.
bottoming a Titan.
Yep. I'm not going to shock in anything ever. I'm just going to play the
Okay.
Triumph on turn 1. I'm going to play the Elvish Reclaimer on turn 2 and play tap breeding pool.
Okay.
And we're going to hopefully find some lands. And Goblin Guide is going to help us do that.
WinCon online.
All right, so now we're incentivized to just play the breeding pool untapped, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. This also allows us to play the Explorer on turn 2 if something were to happen to this Reclaimer.
Yeah.
The goal of this hand is to put Omnath on the table as soon as possible, and the lands in our
Sure.
hand allow us to do that in a timely manner, which is very important.
Currently, the main thing we're missing is either a green or blue source.
Yep,
In
which
order
can be
to
found
do
from
that,
the flagstones.
and we found the green source.
So I'm not going to block here. So
play Flagstone's Pass,
we're
or do
actually
we
at
want to
a
explore?
we're at a slightly pivotal position at this point in the game. We can choose to activate the Reclaimer, or we can choose to explore. And I think it's in our best interest to activate the Reclaimer because it has the same effect and not take 2 damage. We already have all the colors and lands that we need to be able to play this Omnath the following turn.
Yeah. Okay,
So
sounds good to me.
I think it's just a passing of the turn. I do plan on blocking with the Reclaimer. It's worth noting. Just soak up some damage. If this Omnath were to die, it would likely eat a Path to Exile, and we'd be in the same position we were in last game, where we're going to be able to cast a Primeval Titan the following turn. So let's see.
So we're going to try and get the Jeskai land.
So we're going to block, and we're going to activate Elvish Reclaimer.
Are we getting the Jeskai land here?
Yes, we are.
And what's our second land since we're kind of off the Flagstones combo?
Hold on just a second. Let me click some things on my computer. So Rogran Triumph.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can get a lot of different things. We cannot get a fountain here, which is it's sad, but it's not the worst thing in the world.
Maybe we want Valakut.
Valakut's reasonable. We already have all of our fixing, so it's between Valakut or a tapped land that produces more than just red, and I think Valakut's slightly better in this spot.
There's also Castle because we have Titan.
Castle is a consideration. Castle would be a lot better if we could cast Titan the following turn. But
we get to go Omnath into, then play Castle, cast Titan, get the second and third Omnath trigger without cracking any fetches.
I'm actually not too scared about cracking fetch lands. I think Valakut's slightly better in this spot than Castle is.
Okay.
Just given the way our curve works. If Omnath does get pathed, Castle's not going to make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to play, let's see, we have red, green, blue, white, or we have red, blue, white, green. So it doesn't matter if we play a forest or a plains.
So let's play the forest because it would be
forest
double green.
Forest to be slightly better.
High.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
so that's not a bad draw. So we'll play the forest. And I tap the only way that doesn't work. And blue. Play an Omnath. Now, if they don't answer this card, the game will end on the spot.
That's true. Just gaining 4 would be heinous here.
So I am going to block next turn. I'm absolutely going to block. There's no question about that.
If they untap without casting a spell, I think that they're holding a Skullcrack.
Okay.
Oh, this is Path.
Path to Exile is fine. That allows me to cast Primeval Titan the following turn. So we are going to find a...
anything other than Snow Forest.
Let's just find a regular... let's find a Plains here.
Okay.
All right, so move to discard.
Foothills.
Yeah, just discard a Foothills. It's just fine with me. So let's just hope to not be dead this turn. It's unlikely, but you never know.
3 cards. We're taking 4, so we're at 8. So if they have Bolt, 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 that would be the some variation. Spike. It looks like they're just getting some F6 value here. Ooh, that's a great follow-up. So we're gonna go Fountain Titan.
Okay, let's just hope they don't have a Skullcrack this turn. So
Yeah,
here's a Fountain. Do they have the Skullcrack?
they do.
Looks like they do, which is not the end of the world. We just have to hope they don't have a copy of Lightning Bolt or an adjacent card in their hand.
So we're gonna get 2 fields.
We can still put many blockers into play, but this is oftentimes what it comes down to in these burn matchups.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything other than field?
Not that I can see. There's no other reason to do anything else.
Okay. It's an interesting bit. They've got one spell. All of their in-play creatures are turned off. All of our spells are turned off. And so we have Sanctuary, but we can't play the Hallowed Fountain the same turn. If we draw another 4+ spell, then we're in a good position.
Well, let's see if the game ends this turn.
Yeah, it probably does.
Yep, and that's just the way it goes sometimes.
Okay, so is there anything that we could have done, do you think?
We could have built our deck in a way that is better against this particular matchup. We could have also not played the Omnath when we did, and instead held it in case they had something like a Skullcrack.
Just to look. Well, then, so let's say they Skullcracked that turn for mana efficiency, and then we waited till the next turn so that we could go Omnath
plus a fetch
play
land.
the land. Yeah, it'd be like Omnath plus play the land. We gain 4 or 6. It doesn't really matter because it would probably be 6 on that turn because they'd spend the Skullcrack. So that's 6 that we could have gained. If we did that, we also would have taken. We would not have taken any more damage because they had a path which already removed it as a blocker. I question whether or not that would have been a way. So I did have a feeling that there was potential Skullcrack because of the way that they were playing, right? Maybe we were meant to do that. I'm gonna chalk that up as. So I'm just writing here why we lost, in my opinion, and I think that it might have been we were pressured into like their plan.
Okay, so my opponent did reveal a commander. They have Lurrus the Dream Den.
This hand is not playable,
don't
though,
think
right?
I want to keep this hand, no.
We don't get to cast a spell till turn 3.
This hand's good, though. I can keep this.
What do you got him? Temple Garden or Sanctuary?
I like Sanctuary when I have Dryad, so I think I want to put back the Tribelder this time.
Really?
Yes, because if assuming that they don't have a removal spell for the Eldritch Reclaimer, I don't want to actually cast this Tribelder on turn 2.
Lurrus decks are usually removal heavy decks. They're like prowess decks, fatal push decks. Like I think that there's probably a removal spell and am interested in keeping the turn 2, turn 3.
Okay. If we were to keep the Tribelder, we would definitely put back the Selesnya Sanctuary in that case, which is not terrible. We can do that. Let's go ahead and try that out and see how it works.
And it's no. That shadow looks like black-red shadow.
It looks as though it's black-red shadow. Okay. So
it's the Flagstone Pass, right?
We're just going to play a Flagstones and pass here. Just try to get as much value from our spells as possible.
We're definitely in a matchup where Blast Zone is on the mind. So hopefully they just don't have it. Okay, is that targeting Reclaimer?
Do we want to get a Reclaimer?
Do we want to get a Blast Zone and some other land then? Like maybe like Triome and then get Blast Zone? Because this Triome's a red source, right?
I think we can probably get a Blast Zone here, yeah. It's either going to be Blast Zone or it's going to be Valakut. There's a good
Uh-huh.
argument for both. So if
So
we get Valakut here, we untap, we have 3 lands, we can play Sakura
and we do get
Tribe-Elder,
one trigger.
we can play Sakura
We get two
Tribe-Elder
trigger.
plus tapped Breeding Pool. We need 6 lands in total to have a Valakut trigger, so we can't do it next
Really?
turn.
Read Valakut. It's 5 other.
Yep.
Okay, so we would only get one trigger
We would
because we
get
could go
one.
Dryad into Sakura and then crack it.
That's true. That might be our best line here, actually, depending on what they do. Yeah, I think I like
Yeah.
getting Valakut. It gives us the best staying value. So let's do that. Sure, my elf is dead. Mutagenic growth,
Huh.
never a good sign.
That's a weird time to play a mutagenic growth.
Okay,
What do they have?
so
Okay.
let's go ahead and make the play we outlined earlier.
Do we want to
And
hold this up in response to a spell?
nope,
Or do we just
I'm
want to
going
do
to
it now?
crack it. I'm going to crack it right now because if they have a mutagenic growth, that's the only way they can really save it. If they have a lava dart, I want them to use it on their turn.
True. True. That way they can't like cast 2 things targeting the Dryad.
Mm-hmm. All right, they have a Dismember. That's unfortunate, but that is the only card that kind of gets us here. Now, upside is that we can have an active field the following turn. We already have all of our color sources, so let's just get a basic forest here, I guess.
Yeah. So if they just like attack us and put Lurrus in hand, that's their worst possible line. It seems like they're probably gonna like maybe Thoughtseize us. Oh, okay, Scourge.
Scourge is going to be a problem in this game, assuming that we
9.
don't rip a
It's
spell off the top.
we're abyssing every turn, so that means that Soulscar is going to be attacking.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a good follow-up, I guess, to Field, but
We just have to hope they don't have a removal spell in hand.
or you know the obvious.
Yeah,
That
Temur
double strike.
Valrage. Yeah.
We're probably just dead. Well, maybe not. Fatal Push.
All right, and we have died.
Gone. Cool.
Okay, so against this deck, I really like Chalice of the Void. That's the first thing that I want to put in. Celestial Purge is also pretty strong. And Path is good, but because I am actually boarding in so many Chalices, I could reasonably see trimming 1 Path, 2 Reclaimers, because they are 1-drops, boarding in the Winds of Abandon to make up for our Path differential, boarding out Excavator, boarding out of a Shalai.
That one's tricky to me.
Shalai is tricky, but ultimately, once we get to this point in the game, their hand disruption isn't going to be the biggest problem, and they're going to be attacking with creatures that are just bigger than Shalai.
Sure.
So Shalai,
Are we shaving some balls and maybe a Dryad?
we're going to be shaving a Cavern of Souls.
That's good.
We're going to be shaving 1 Dryad and 1 Call. We're going to ship it like this. Also, Elder Gargaroth is normally good in these matchups where we're attacking and blocking, but unfortunately the cards that we care the most about are so much bigger than Elder Gargaroth that it doesn't do enough, so tend to board it out.
Sure.
So we would love to play first. This hand is excellent.
Yeah.
This allows us to play a Chalice on 1 and on 2 later in the game. And that should block out almost all of their deck.
Also, this is really good against Inquisition and Thoughtseize that we get to that we have, because that's what I'm anticipating from them turn one.
Absolutely.
We
Yep.
still get to chalice them.
So we'll see this game if Chalice does a significant amount of work or not.
How many seconds do you think this game is going to last?
I don't know. They could have a
Surgical?
Skyclave hand.
That's true. I was just trying to figure out how our opponent would
Okay.
react.
I'm not going to bother fetching here. I'd rather just fetch later.
Yeah, the concealing doesn't matter.
Yep. So we're just going to play a Chalice on 1. And this should block out a very large portion of their deck, their Death Shadows, their cheap interaction. And the game has ended. All right. So Chalice of the Void.
Say how many seconds?
Chalice of the
So
Void
on
absolutely did
principle-
something there.
On principle, there are a couple of other things that they can do, and I'm just going to check real quick. Abrade is probably coming in from them now.
Yep.
Does that lower the quality of any of our cards? The fact that they're probably bringing in Abrades.
The thing that Abrade hits in our deck aside from Chalice, they would just be the Elvish Reclaimers and a Sakura Tribe Elder if they really wanted to target it, but I doubt that's going to be the case. Bringing in a card like Abrade is narrow enough against us that I think that keeping the Chalice in is still worth it. It's just something to be mindful of, that Chalice in the opening hand might not just be an insta-win. So I'm just going to click Submit here. I don't think we have any other sideboarding decisions that really matter. And let's just hope to
get another double Chalice hand.
Yeah, that would be wonderful, but it's not going to happen every game. This hand's actually pretty good. We can fetch a Triumph with this on 1 and be able to have Path and Uro mana, so I'm going to go ahead and keep this hand. It doesn't have Chalice, but not every hand that you're going to have against Black Red Shadow is going to have Chalice.
So we're getting a Jeskai land into Forest, explore, maybe hit another white source, which would let us the path on that turn. But if not, we at least have the castle to put in.
Yep, exactly. So the third removal spell is actually very good here. It's not impossible that we just run them out of threats this game.
Yeah.
Soul Scrum Mage is fine. Lightning Bolt on me is okay.
So we're going down to 15 this turn, then down to 14. Is there a chance that on this next turn we delay playing the Explore for a turn in favor of playing Path because we have Uro on the following turn?
It's definitely possible. I know that this needs to fetch a Triumph here if I want to cast the cards in my hand.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do that. It's going to get Rogrin Triumph. Going to untap.
Poorly named.
I know.
If we get a white land, then we're incentivized to play Explore here, I think.
That's true. Okay. So in this spot, I think I just want to play a Forest and just pass. There's a good argument to playing Winds of Abandon here because it's the most mana efficient line. I don't love giving them extra mana is the problem.
Yeah.
And being able to interact at instant speed might be helpful if they have something along the lines of a mutagenic growth. So we're just going to pass the turn.
We're casting a second Path next turn anyway. I don't think that this affects us for 3 turns. So removing the land seems good to me. They have 2 cards in hand. The other question would be like how many spells can they cast in 1 turn, which is approximately 4.
Okay. Lightning Bolt resolves. Not much we can do about that one. And Lava Dart. Okay, so they have no cards in hand.
So we're going to wait till after blocks. They might sack a land.
That is true. They do currently have lethal on board. I want to incentivize them to actually doing something here. So pass priority. They do sack it, so I am going to use my Path to Exile at this point in time.
Perfect.
I am going to take damage going down to 4.
Well, yeah. We're taking 6 prowess trigger and then the 1 damage.
Yep.
Okay. So we're at 4, but they're out of threats. They're looking at their own deck or ours?
They looked at ours, I believe.
Okay. Not that it matters, but
okay.
We want to path on their turn. So are we
So
going to explore here or not?
I think I am going to explore right now.
Okay.
Okay, we didn't find a land, but it's not the biggest deal in
But
the world.
it's better for that to happen now than be our draw step.
Exactly.
So our plan here is to
I'm going to cast
um,
Path to Exile on their upkeep here.
really okay.
Um,
You don't want to do it at the end of the draw step because of the protection spell possibility.
if they have a protection spell, I don't think I can.
Win.
No, it's not that I don't think I can win. If they have exactly Monastery Swiftspear into Lightning Bolt, I die to casting Path to Exile right now. If they have a
Sure.
protection spell on top of their deck rather than in their hand, I get very much rewarded. So the question becomes, where do I think they have a protection spell if they have it, and do I think they have another Lightning Bolt? And
I think that we do this at the end of the draw step if we don't think that they have the protection spell, because then they have a chance of drawing the land.
I'm gonna
Or at
let
least,
them.
sorry, we do it after the upkeep. Rather, it doesn't need to be in the draw step.
I'm gonna let them go a little bit. So I'm gonna float a white with this. That's fine. They have no mana up right now, so I feel comfortable just casting my Path to Exile at this point.
We don't want to do it after they draw a card. Like they run very few basics, so there's a chance that we want to just let them draw as many cards before we thin their deck. You know what I mean?
Not necessarily. I'm gonna do it now in case they have land plus something.
Sure. Wildfire, kind of a
Mic
crazy
off.
card for them to be playing, but
Mic
maybe I'm
on.
wrong. We're getting a basic planes here, so
Yep.
doesn't matter. There's only one of each of those.
Okay, so they do have a land. We are still at 4 life, so that's gonna be an issue down the line.
Explore, I guess, right?
Go ahead and cast an Explore here. Okay, that was a good draw, but it's not worth shocking in over.
Yeah.
So we're going to play a tap land, and if we draw an untapped land the following turn, we can cast a Primeval Titan from this castle.
It's very possible that what they're going to do is they're going to just like put a Luris in their hand.
Sure.
Um,
If they have a shadow, they can also, play a shadow, whatever it may be. We have
that's a good.
a
That's
ton of
good.
answers to these cards, though.
We're going to win that, obviously, and then hold up Purge.
If we don't draw an untapped land. Untapped land makes the play a little bit. I'm not going to shock for this. I really don't think it's
Yeah.
worth it.
Don't
So
either.
we're going to play this tapped. We're going to cast Winds of Abandon, targeting a Scourge of the Skyclaves. If they have a protection spell for it, they do. If they don't, we're now in a really good spot. Okay.
Sick. This is great. So that was Luris to the hand.
Yep.
We're going to Uro holding up.
Actually, I'm going to cast Primeval Titan here, and I'm going to bog them. Because that makes
Oh.
Luris completely just outclassed in terms of
Sure,
the
even
board
though they
state.
have 3 cards in hand. You're not worried about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here
I
I'm
just
going
like,
to
I
grab...
liked the idea of gaining life, but I guess they play fewer things than we think. And then what are we getting? Field?
I'm going to grab Bog, and there's a reasonable argument to grabbing Bolt here.
Maybe even getting Radiant Fountain?
Yeah,
It just goes 6.
I think Radiant Fountain is actually slightly better. So let's
Because
bog
Radiant
them.
Fountain plays around them going Luris and then having a land and a Seal of Fire.
All right, let's see what they got. There is a Swiftspear.
Okay.
There is a Feed the Swarm. Okay.
Yeah, so they're going to go to a low life total.
Now, if they have a Bolt here, we lose the game, but we did make the best play accessible to us with the knowledge that we had, so I don't see how we could have really done a whole lot this game if we do lose it here. Okay. Excellent.
Okay. We're definitely going to Uro and wins this turn.
So let's start by casting Uro. Okay, that was a great land to draw, because now we get to back this Radiant Fountain. Let's play
I guess
play the Radiant Fountain.
we could have done it slightly better mana, but that's it.
Let's cast
Um,
Winds of Abandon.
doesn't matter. If we didn't tap it that way, we would have been able to play this Reclaimer and hold up Purge. That's the only misplay on that turn.
I am still going to play the Reclaimer here.
Not holding up Purge, even
I'm
though they have
I'm not holding a
Luris.
Purge, you're right, and they do have Luris, but Luris can't actually get anything from the graveyard.
Sure.
And
Okay, sure.
Reclaimer allows me to fix my mana.
That makes sense. They crack this. They get a Scourge. They pass. Called it. Okay, so
Right.
we're going to be getting an Uro into play. Are we going to be getting a field first then? Or we can't necessarily. We can get an Uro still. So now, because of that draw.
Let's think about this for just a second. So let's assume that we want to sack this Bojuka Bog using these two. And we get a field. We can drop this thing down to a 10-10 with the Uro here. I think that's probably our best out here. Of note, we still have Celestial Purge up, so we're not actually that scared of whatever else they might have going on right now. This one is going to grab a Field of the Dead. All right.
Shock in.
Shock this in. Blue, blue, green, and green. Cast Uro from the graveyard. There's nothing in our deck that can actually get bad cards from our graveyard right now, so it doesn't matter what we exile. Let's go ahead and cast an Uro here. That's fine. We are going to put the Windswept Teeth into play. That just represents two more zombies. Great. This insulates us really nicely against, what do you call it? Temur Battle Rage, if they happen to have it. This thing would grow up to a 20, and we have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Fetching this would make another zombie. So we are not actually dead yet to Temur Battle Rage. Thoughtseize is going to provoke the Celestial Purge here. Alright, and the opponent has conceded. Alright, cool. That league we went 4-1. Not the best performance we've ever had with the deck, but we saw some highs and lows. Maybe some areas of the deck, maybe some areas this deck could improve on.
Let's think real quick before we close, though. Black Red Shadow, we went 2-1.
Yep.
And the reason that we won, let's go ahead and think. It's mainly because we had we played like a prison / control route. So we became reactive, and we had cards like Celestial Purge, Winds of Abandon, or Chalice of the Void that just stopped their strategy. So the games where we win, it's because we prevent them from we disassemble their game plan. Not necessarily just like we don't like the game where we took a linear route, we actually ended up losing because their linear route is just so much more efficient.
Yes.
So it's better for us to instead use global effects like Chalice and just have an abundance of removal, to especially exile-based removal, to force them to have to play a game where they probably very well had like a bunch of trashy cards like TBR in their hand. Even if they had TBR in their hand that turn, we had a removal spell for it. But we made TBR so bad by never letting them have a big creature or have like a big cast like 4 spells type of turn. That makes sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead and put control here as the reason that we won. So we controlled their game plan.
Their proactive strategy is much, much faster and more efficient than ours, so we are forced to play the reactive or control route. So that would absolutely make sense. As far as specific cards in our sideboard and how they performed, in those specific matches, Night of Autumn was okay if we would have drawn it against the burn deck. It may or may not have made the difference, but it's unclear. I think that if we wanted to more consistently win against Burn, we'd have to change more than just one sideboard slot. And because
Hmm.
Burn is so underrepresented in the modern metagame as of this recording, it's unlikely that I'm willing to make any changes to the deck in order to more efficiently beat the Burn or traditional Burn style strategy. Phyrexian Revoker, it never came up that this card was something that we wanted access to in these matches, but I could absolutely see this card being an MVP in the matches that we outlined earlier. I don't think it was fair to say that Phyrexian Revoker was good or bad by these matches because this is just not what the card was designed for.
I
Uh,
do think that Revoker would have ended up being good if the games against blue white control weren't non games. The
exactly.
fact that they were non games was the only reason that this card didn't get its opportunity. And its opportunity is against primarily planeswalkers, decks like combo elves, decks that are either using a non land like unfair mana advantage,
Yep. This is also very
or
good against Heliod Company. It's great against Devoted Druid.
yes,
It
that's
hits
true.
so many things in the format, and it's such a cheap creature that I think it warrants at least one slot in the sideboard, if not for testing, actually just as a mainstay somewhere in the
It's
75.
also it's also a card that like does something that nothing else in this deck does, which makes it a huge like Knight of Autumn arguably does something that Skyclave Apparition already does. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Revoker above Knight in terms of like
Yep.
priority. I think that the Revoker expands the capacity of this deck to win games that it couldn't win versus Knight of Autumn maybe is just part of a like a drip in a bucket where we're trying to make that bucket overflow with things like Gargaroth and Shalai to win these games against, aggressive decks. And then occasionally it's a drip in the bucket along with Skyclave against decks where we need to deal with non-creature permanents that it's good at dealing with. But other than that, it's like it's such a switchblade card. It's really hard to look at it and be like, oh, that's a very specific tool that we didn't have before. Where Revoker, that's definitely true. And that's true of Teague too,
I agree.
right?
Um, the fourth Chalice didn't necessarily feel better than any of the other Chalices, but in the matchups where we want this card, having the additional consistency of having another Chalice, I think, is really, really nice. A lot of other players would argue that Chalice doesn't belong in this style of deck, but Chalice wasn't our first choice for these kinds of, very efficient, aggressive strategies. But cards like Lightning Helix, cards like Path to Exile, Winds of Abandon, Celestial Purge, what have you, these removal spells are all good. But Chalice, in these specific matchups, does something that is so backbreaking to their entire strategy that I think is absolutely worth including in some number. And the way this deck is built right now, we are afforded 4 slots in our sideboard to it. And if we are just trying to win games of Magic the Gathering against a wide variety of the modern metagame right now, there are enough Xerox or exceedingly low converted mana cost decks that this deck tends to struggle against that I think Chalice of the Void is definitely a card that I want. It overperforms more than any of the other cards in our sideboard, aside from maybe Hexdrinker and Gaddock Teague.
Between like Bogles, Infect,
Yep,
Prowess, Death Shadow, and also certain other fringe decks, if we were to go further down, I think that Chalice like deserves its merit because those are all matchups where we absolutely need to do what we did in that Black Red Shadow
exactly.
that game too, where we need to stop their plan because it's so hyper efficient. The reason for Chalice being a 4 of versus a 3 of, I think is like totally merited. It's just how many slots we have for it. It's similar to like a leyline effect in that way, where it's like we're going for such a dramatic effect, and what we're trying to do is warp a game. We're not trying to like integrate it into a plan. It's the first step of every plan that will be a successful plan.
Exactly. Chalice is involved in every one of our matches that uh, requires us to slow the game to a screeching halt, and there isn't a more mana uh, efficient card in the format that can stop these Xerox decks in their tracks like Chalice can. So we have made Chalice work in this deck, and it's worked very well so far, better than most other just generic removal spells we may have had. And if you find that in your gameplay with a deck similar to this that you don't like playing Chalice, then by all means don't play it. This is not a set in stone deck list. We're constantly evolving some of the choices here, and so far Chalice has just provided us with the winningest results. So we're going to continue to play it until we find something else. It's
I'll
not.
also note, just while we're on it, not to interrupt you, but I did not have a single situation where I felt like we ran out of steam.
No, we didn't.
So I don't think that we need any more top end. I think that I still think the balance between the early, mid, and late game cards is correct. I think that you could easily argue switching Gargaroth, Shalai, Omnath, Titan numbers around, but they are like a class of their own, and I like this balance. But you could shift, but it seems like six top end cards is what you want, and you theoretically want access to these one-ofs, so shaving a Titan is like the best way to do it to me currently. The one-ofs that happen in the mid-game cards, we have Skyclave, Ramunap, and Uro, arguably. I think that you could also make an argument that the second Uro could be if you found a card that you really wanted as a silver bullet in the matchups, you would be losing something, but you wouldn't be losing something super dramatic. So I think that the balance is correct. I do think that some things inside of that balance are technically flex slots. So like the three non-Titan payoff cards are in a group of 6. So you want 6 top end cards, you want around 8 mid game cards, and you want all of the early game stuff is pretty much core. So none of it can be cut. So the early game, all of the cards from 1 to 2 mana, I think, and also including the Dryad, which is mid game to me, but kind of acts as the big transition point. Everything in the 1 and 2 slot, though, I think is an absolute core card. Things in the 3-drop slot I'd call a flex slot are the Excavator, the second Uro, and I think that the Skyclave Apparition is just so necessary in terms of interaction. It's like a path that you can call for in some ways.
Exactly.
So that I'd say you have 2 flex slots in the midsection out of the 8 are flex slots. 3 out of the 6 of the top end are flex slots, and then of the lands, Blast Zone I think just needs to be in the deck. Bog doesn't necessarily need to be in any meta, but I think in this meta absolutely does because of Uro Pile. Cavern of Souls because of blue white and Uro Pile seems essential, but it is technically a flex slot. Radiant Fountain is a flex slot that I think is merited with all of the prowess decks. The bounce land is part of, so Selesnya Sanctuary is part of the Cavern and Radiant Fountain suite. If you have either of those cards, this card makes it much better. So it's nice to have it.
It's also worth noting that Selesnya Sanctuary works exceedingly well if you find yourself on an empty board or on a board state where you have no action. You can just play the land over and over again to either trigger Dryad of the Elysian Groves with Valakut or to trigger Field of the Dead over and over again. Having this synergy with Radiant Fountain, Cavern of Souls, and Bojuka Bog makes the stock of this card go up in the deck. And personally, I've really enjoyed having one, but I would not play more than one. This is not a bounce land deck.
Agreed. At the end of the league, the cards that I saw that could have been good in various matchups or could have been better than any of the other targets that we went for, I had one matchup where Aven Mind Sensor looked particularly attractive. I had one matchup where Spell Queller looked particularly attractive, but maybe not even better than our other targets.
Yep.
And then one matchup where Deputy of Detention looked better. But Deputy of Detention is maybe So Deputy Detention is maybe able to, for the next league, replace Night of Autumn, and then maybe if we wanted to try an Aven Mind Sensor, the next thing that I would shift around would probably be either the Kozilek or the Revoker, but I still want to see Revoker do action. So I think that the flex slot that we discovered in the sideboard is probably the Night of Autumn, is the weakest of those 15, and I would be trying out either Mind Sensor, Spell Queller, or Deputy, and I'm right now leaning pretty heavily towards the Mind Sensor being the 15th card.
All right. That was our league with 4-color Reclaimer. There isn't much more to say about this deck that we haven't already said, so thank you for watching.